Today, I'm gonna be trying Michelin Star Korean BBQ meal kit against supermarket Korean barbecue to see if we can taste the difference. I'll be cooking both meats on the same grill with the same ingredients, and at the end, I'll be inviting some judges to see if they can tell which one came from the supermarket and which one is a Michelin Star restaurant.
What? I'm like shocked.
This is a lot of fat.
This is a delivery kit from Cote, the only Michelin Star Korean barbecue steakhouse in the world, and it's located in New York City. Cote prides itself in its top secret grilling methods, flavor pairings, quality meats, and its overall one-of-a-kind dining experience, which makes sense to pay a higher price tag for. However, if you want to experience Cote in the comfort of your own home, it'll cost you a whopping $300. While I'm sure the meat in here is super high quality, is it worth the $300 if I have to grill and cook everything myself anyway? So this is my $300 box of Korean barbecue straight from New York City. Very nicely packaged. Let's see, we have a Cote Steakhouse explaining all the different cuts of meats. And then they have a visual of their dry aged refrigerator. If you guys ever wonder how they ship things cold across the United States, here you go. Here's our first one. It is the American Wagyu Cote steak. Very nice marbling with the Wagyu. This is their dry aged ribeye. This is their Cote Kalbi, which is the boneless short ribs marinated in their special seasoning. It's a lot smaller than I expected. And then finally, their hanger steak, which is very similar to like a skirt steak. So then this has the corresponding accoutrements, banchans, which are the pickled side dishes that you would get. This is the gastronome salt. It's a blend of Malden, Himalayan pink, Korean 1,000-day aged sea salt. So it's just a mix of a bunch of salts. We have pickled cucumber, pickled fennel, pickled radish, which is delicious, pickled cauliflower. This is also very new to me. I've never seen pickled cauliflower at Korean barbecue before. Samjang is also a mixture of fermented soybean paste, and it's not as red as the type that I typically have at Korean restaurants. And then you also have at the bottom of the package this dry aged beef fat to help season your grill and keep everything from sticking. So you guys, all of this was $300. You're basically paying for the Michelin star, you're paying for the name, and we're gonna see if we're paying for the quality.
And the shipping.
Shipping was free. Okay, so now I'm at HMart and I'm gonna try to find cuts as close to Cote's as possible. $45 a pound, dang. All right, so they have a boneless ribeye here, and unfortunately they don't have a hanger steak, but the butcher said the closest thing we have is an outside skirt that's already sliced, so I'm gonna have to just go with it. Seasoned pickled radish. I'm actually surprised that the Cote's box doesn't come with kimchi, because this right here is the best kimchi ever. I'm gonna grab a box. Grab the good samjang, Korea's #1 sea salt. So they have their own blend of gastronomique salt. I'm gonna try to make my own blend. Korean salt here, Himalayan pink salt, and some Malden salt, which is just a very fancy sea salt. So just so you guys know and can help me keep track, side 1 will be for HMart and side 2 will be for Cote. Our table is set, now let's call in our judges. First off, I have Sue, our Korean barbecue expert, who will be judging the authenticity of both spreads. Next up, we have our fan favorite, Kelly is back.
Due to popular request, I have returned.
And finally, the toughest critic of my life, my mom. So before we start, every Korean barbecue must start with some soju. Feel free to shoot it or sip it.
I will be shooting that.
For round 1, we're starting off with the Wagyu. They don't know which cut is which, so I'm gonna cut it as identically as possible, grill it up, and then see if they can tell which one is the Michelin star one. So I don't know if you guys can tell, I definitely can, but this one has a significantly better marbling than this one. I have our grill nice and hot. No, it's not nice and hot. That did the job. And I present to you round 1, American Wagyu.
I genuinely can't tell the difference.
Yes, they look really similar. Nice char to it.
the color.
I'm curious the difference in the size of the cuts.
This one was very thick.
Yeah, that one has a Michelin star. So as the Korean amongst us, do you want to walk us through how we should eat
Yes,
this?
so I always love to start with a base, which is the
Okay.
lettuce that they provided us with. And then I go straight for the meat. And then you can dip it in a little bit of salt. This looks like actually pretty high quality salt.
Okay.
There's like colors to it.
Michelin levels quality salt.
There's
maybe?
I think red pepper salt perhaps. Like Koreans love to flavor their salt with like green tea or
I didn't know
wasabi.
that. I'm suspicious of that one now.
That's true. I don't see any color in the other salt. So this is the samjang, which is a soybean paste.
No, thank you.
You have to try, Mom. You have to try.
I have to.
You have to.
Very tender.
To me, I think not really tender. It's a little bit chewy.
I'm suspicious of you.
Chewy. Chewier.
Chewier.
I think this is more flavor.
The first one, I agree. And it's a little bit more tender.
For round 2, we are doing the hanger steak, and since the skirt steak from HMart was already sliced over here, I'm gonna basically do the same thing, cut against the grain, and we'll simply sear it up. So Coates is quite smaller than HMart, but is bigger always better, or do better things come in tiny packages? And now I present to you our hanger steak.
Interesting difference in size.
shape.
Maybe we try this one
Okay.
first.
Just by that being so much smaller, I'm like, Michelin.
But that's too much.
It's actually, it tastes more tender than the Wagyu cut.
I'm a little confused now.
1
Yeah.
and 2 are very
This-
similar.
Yeah,
Both
these
very
are
tender.
Both tender.
I feel like I get a little extra kick in number 1 though. Just a little extra fattiness. Do I taste a Michelin star?
Yes.
They taste the same. So
Oh, you think both are the same? Sung, I think your mom is pursuing a conspiracy theory that both were the same for round 2. She's on to you.
They have no idea, and I love it.
just a little bit. Okay, enough. Thank you.
Next up, we have the ribeye. On this side, we'll sear this one. And on this side, which is HMart, I will sear this one. I'm gonna try to do about 5 minutes on each side just to make sure we get like a nice medium rare. All right, let's take this baby off. Whoa, looks amazing. So that's our dry aged. Look at the supermarket one. Also quite a bit of fat. So for round 3, I present to you ribeye.
Those look identical.
So I have to mention that one of them has been dry aged for 45 days and one is just your regular old cut of ribeye. So just as a mid-challenge check-in, let me ask you this. How many Michelin star restaurants have you guys been to?
I've been to a Michelin star taco truck.
Taco truck.
But they lost it because they got the Michelin star for their tortillas and then they stopped doing their tortillas, so I think they lost their star.
So far, this is the chewiest cut for me. This one has a lot of fat to it as well.
Lots of fat.
To me, I think this is more tender.
This one has way more fat, at least the one that I had. It's like encased in fat.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know.
In terms of fattiness, I like a little bit more fat, but in terms of like more marbling. And this tastes like it's more marbling versus just like a slab of fat.
I don't like fat. I think this is the best for me.
This one.
I will eat it later.
So here we have the marinated kalbi from Cote and the marinated kalbi from HMart. Whoa. In terms of the lattice here, I find it to be a little more challenging to cook. Just how they like packaged it up, it was all kind of bundled and I'm not really sure like how I'm gonna be able to cook everything all at once. Yeah, I almost prefer the way this was cut more. All right, and our final round, round 4, we have The marinated kalbi.
I've been waiting for this one.
Off the bat, I noticed that these are cut really evenly. Like it's very consistent cook and cut throughout. These are cut very interestingly. If I was at a Michelin star restaurant, this would be the presentation I would be expecting.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not restaurant. The flavor and the taste look like a homemade.
Well, right off the bat, it's interesting because the cut on this is
Irregular.
all over the place.
Yes.
It looks like a Patrick Star from SpongeBob.
No, a bit more fat in this one than the other. This is more tender.
So both had the great like Korean marinade flavor, I feel like. It was sweet, it was salty, it was balanced. Number 2 is definitely more fatty.
I like how mom has hidden.
she's hidden the bad ones under her.
I like number 2.
like
Even though number
better.
2 is fattier?
A little bit fat, but it tastes good.
The flavor.
And
Yeah.
the flavor.
I do think I like the flavor in number 2 more.
I did
like
too.
number 2 more.
Yes, number 2 was more flavor.
Yeah.
But I personally think number 1 is more simple in its flavor.
Almost like
Strong
they knew
flavor.
that they didn't want to necessarily cover the quality of the meat with marinade.
Yeah.
Because that could be an indication of like a cheaper cut of meat like HMart, right? Where you want to, you're relying on the marinade
Yeah.
to carry you. Where maybe a place like Cote is like, we don't really necessarily need to do that because the quality of our meat speaks for itself.
Do it.
Watch us be wrong. So yeah, up until now, we have not tried any of the banchan. What has thrown us this entire time, because we're leaning towards number 1 being from Cote, but the banchan looks like HMart banchan.
Agreed.
I've never really seen these before. This is really unique.
For me, what's a bit more confusing, because I agree with you, number 1 is the quality of meat. It tastes more Michelin. In terms of like colors, this is neutrally aesthetic, and I feel like Michelin loves visually pleasing its patron. This side has kimchi, this side doesn't. And then I feel like in terms of the soybean paste, the samjang, this does look more like elevated. I feel like kimchi is always really telling of KBBQs. If a KBBQ spot is good, they have good kimchi.
I have thoughts after trying the kimchi. So I buy kimchi from HMart every week. It's not great, but it does the trick. I've never bought kimchi from HMart that tastes like this. Super flavorful.
Yeah, you know what, now that you say that, the soybeans, I'm surprised at how pure it tasted. Like, not lack of flavor, but you taste like the purity of the soybeans.
No, it's the kimchi that's really getting me because
It's always the kimchi.
I always keep I open my kimchi and I keep it in my fridge for like 2 weeks. I'm like, this needs to ferment more because it's so bland.
I taste it like it's not like usually I had salty, not sour.
$300 kimchi maybe?
I think it's cheap kimchi.
Cote single-handedly defeated by one sentence. Cheap. This tastes kind of homemade. Not that I would know, but I feel like it feels homemade.
Yeah.
I've never had any of these panchans. Like the cauliflower, pickles. I was so sure on number 1 being Cote, but the banchan is really throwing me.
So Sue, would love to hear your thoughts on which one you thought was the Michelin star.
I think, and I'm gonna stand by this, number 1 is Michelin in terms of the meat, the quality, the taste. But I will say the banchan really threw me off because that was the only section where I switched the 2. But I'm gonna go majority rules, so number 1 I'm gonna say is Michelin for me.
So I'm with Sue. I think number 1 is Cote, just from kind of the texture of the meat, the flavor, the presentation. Banchan though, like Sue said, threw me a loop. I did also switch mine. I was like, I think this is HMart because this I've never seen. I could see this being like an elevated Michelin star banchan, whereas these I see at HMart all the time. What I did think differently is like the kimchi. As someone who buys kimchi from HMart every week and is always disappointed, I've never tasted kimchi like this from HMart. I would say 1 is Cote, Michelin star, but if Zung pulled a fast one on us and switched the banchans around, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think the number 1 is the best, more
More expensive,
Yeah, more
higher
expensive.
quality. Why?
The meat is tender and the quality and the flavor.
All right, so thank you guys for joining me on this Korean barbecue challenge. I hope everything you tasted was delicious. After hearing all of your thoughts on the different cuts of meat, how you judged it, how you rated it, I would like to announce that number 2 was our Michelin Star
What?
Korean barbecue.
I'm shocked. Maybe it was your grilling.
Maybe.
It was your
I really tried my best to cook everything side by side. I was actually quite shocked at the marinated kalbi. Just the way that it was cut. It was cut in a lattice, and the way that they packaged it was just in a bag. HMart had it very nicely sliced and in like a flat pack. And I was really surprised to hear what you guys said about the kimchi. Let me show you the best kimchi.
I've been buying the wrong kimchi from HMart.
So this right here is the best kimchi ever, and you can find it at all HMarts.
You're telling me Code, a $300 Michelin Korean barbecue restaurant, did not supply kimchi?
That's what I said too. Thought about the pickled cucumber was that it tasted like cornichons or like bread and butter pickles.
Yes.
It did not taste like
It tasted
Korean
white.
side dish. To me, what made the Michelin star was probably the experience of eating at the restaurant, where it was probably prepared a lot fresher, coming like 3,000 miles across the United States probably made a difference. Thank you so much again to our judges for your thoughtful comments and helping me eat this. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments below whether you think a Michelin star rated Korean barbecue is worth going to or ordering. Watch our next video and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Is this how you do it?
You and I 비교나 하지마 우리 너무 달라 we just different 나 좀 봐라 여자나 집이나 세차 나가신다 너무 빨라 I'm a globetrotter